And if you guys can let us know where you're joining us from, we would appreciate that. Uh, we wanna acknowledge you. We wanna say good evening. We wanna greet you. We wanna let you know that God has got some answers for you regarding business. And hey, Pastor Matt, good evening. Welcome, welcome. Thank you so much. I'm so honored to have alongside me Dr. Owen Rawlins, a gift to the body of Christ and literally a gift to humanity in essence. Because when you listen to his heartbeat and when you listen to his passion is primarily to help people, and it's very rare that you get these kinds of people. So I'm looking forward to learning tonight. We have Dr. Alicia, good evening. We have Cindy, good evening. Charlotte Hodges from South Carolina, good evening. Hey guys, I wonder if you can do us a favor. Hey Sarah, so good to see you, welcome. I wonder if you guys can do us a favor. If you guys can hit the like button, hit the share button, give us some hearts. We would greatly appreciate that. The reason why we ask for that is because, when Jesus went around the world in his day, the Bible says he preached the kingdom. And the message of the kingdom is good news. So tonight we're going to be talking, a few good things, some points, some principles that is going to literally give you insight and perspective into how to approach business, and if you guys can share this video, hit the like button, hit the heart button. The reason why we ask you to do that is because the algorithm on Facebook generates the post to climb up the news feed of the public. So we would like this broadcast to climb up the news feed of the public. So we would greatly appreciate if you can, if you can share this and if you can create a watch party, inbox somebody, let them know we are live because tonight is going to be a good night. And I'm excited to be with Dr. Owen, all the way in South Africa, Johannesburg, and we're going to have a great time tonight. So I see Emily, good evening, wife. Good evening, Brad Governor, so good to see you. Good evening, Kanaya. Good evening, Fredlin. Welcome, welcome, welcome. So good to see all of you. I'm so excited tonight. I wonder if we can just open your word of prayer and let's pray. Father, we thank you that tonight we do that wisdom, understanding, direction would be our portion. I pray that you would direct us. I pray that you would speak to us. I pray that you would anoint us, and I pray, God, that you would fulfill your purpose tonight. So, Holy Spirit, we yield to you. We thank you that whatever we discuss tonight, let it fall on good ground. But most of all, God, we pray for perspective. We pray for understanding in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
So, before we even start, I'm going to ask Dr. Owen tonight just to tell us who is Dr. Owen. Give us some insight as to who is Dr. Owen.
Good evening, guys. Owen, it's really just such an honor and a privilege to be with you guys this evening. I'm a husband of one wife, father of two awesome boys, Joshua and Joe. The doctor part comes with me being a dentist, having qualified 21 years ago, been in practice, private practice for all of those years. My journey with that has been as both working for others, owning practice as a sole prop, being a part of a corporation of practices, also going into partnership with other guys, assisting them in their practices. I also completed a master's in business administration at Gibbs in 2017, and that was quite a learning for me as well. And outside of dentistry, I've also been involved in other businesses on my own with my wife, and also in partnership with some other people as well.
So yeah, thank you so much, Dr. Owen, and I think that's such a powerful insight into who Dr. Owen is. And I think the premise for and the reason why we are discussing business is, of course, most people have been affected by COVID-19 and the surprise that it's thrown on humanity. And of course, with that, the Chinese proverb says, crisis equals opportunity. So with the opportunities that are available there, not every opportunity is for us. And I began to, sit down and listen to Dr. Owen and speak into my life, even regarding business. And I asked him, I said, regarding business, would you mentor me? And he looked at me and he didn't respond. He just looked at me. There was no answer. But then I realized, he began to drop wisdom to me. And I've understood that when you are mentored by somebody, as the mentee, you never determine the pace. Whenever the mentor, determines what you need for that day or for that hour, you get a pen, you get a paper. And there's so much that he has done, there's so much that he has said, and there's so much wisdom that he has literally, filled my life with. And I sat one day and I said to him, Dr. Owen, come, let's do something. Let's talk about business. Let's empower our people. Let's empower the humanity from what we know, and more specifically from his experience. And the beauty about it is there's fruit to what he's saying. It's not something that is an ideal. I'm going to say that again. It's not something that is an ideal, because most times we speak from the premise of an ideal. This is not an ideal. This is fruit. This is life. You examine his life. You see all the decisions he makes, how he manages his affairs. You know that he is fruitful in what he's doing. And it's great that we have someone that's willing to impart to us tonight. So once again, Dr. Owen, thank you so much. And one of my first questions I want to ask you tonight, is, when we're looking at business, and of course tonight we're dealing with business. When we're looking at business, what is the first thing that we need to consider, considering what you said to me? The very first thing you said to me, you said, Phil, you cannot invest in a business that you don't understand. So can you talk us through that?
Okay, thanks. So I think it's important in business that you don't get involved in things that you know nothing about, right? So if it's of your background, it's obviously easier to get involved with that, because you understand, or maybe from the work that you do, there's a little more that you need to learn about it. But if you're coming from the outside into something new, somebody's presented an idea to you, it's important that you take time to understand that business, to learn that business. That's like the very important thing I would say. So don't put your money and your time into something that you don't know and that you don't understand. Even if it looks fruitful to other people, it's the risks are just too high when you get involved in things that you don't know or understand.
Yeah, that's so powerful, and I think just to add on to that is most times we get so excited, and I think you touched on that literally, not because it's working for someone else, is it necessarily going to work for me. And we began talking today about some of these points, and the next question I want to ask you is, how do we then determine what our competitive advantage is regarding business and regarding what we're going to now invest in?
Okay, so I think when it comes down to your whole competitive advantage, I think the first thing you need to do is do a proper assessment in terms of the business that you're wanting to start. So there you probably look at what is your value proposition. So basically, what is it that you want to present to your customers? It's important to determine what your revenue streams are going to be, who your market segment is going to be, so who you're actually targeting the business at. I think we've all learned through that not everybody is going to be your customer. So it's important to know who you're actually targeting your business at. It's important then to also know what some of the regulations within your business are going to be, and also who your partners are going to be, not just suppliers, but who are your other partners in terms of guys that you can off within that business. And I think when you do that, then you can start deciding, is your competitive advantage, is it technology, is it networks, is it going to be price, is it going to be quality, or is it going to be service? And when you talk about services, going over and above, obviously what people expect. And those are the important things that one needs to decide, because actually some of us, our first businesses or what we call businesses with very low barriers to. So everybody opens a spaza shop, everybody has a taxi, everybody with a paintbrush and a ladder, starts a painting company. But you actually decide what is it that's going to make you different to other guys doing that. What is the thing that creates you from those? And what you find is interesting, once you're able to identify and know what your competitive advantage is, then you are able to diversify into other industries and into other businesses. But I think what we need to understand with that is that your competitive advantage that you can go into other things. Right, so let's look at SAB or Coca-Cola for one. We all know that you can find a Coke, or if you're in South Africa, you can find a beer from SAB anywhere. Sometimes there isn't even a KFC in that town or in the farm,
Right.
but you can find a beer there. That's because they major on logistics. So they can actually go into any industry because their competitive advantage is their logistic, which is their distribution. And that's what helps them to be fruitful, sort of in any kind of market that they want to go into.
And I think just to pick, I think in layman's terms, when you look, and I think you explained this to me so beautifully today when you began to talk about Woolworths, which is more of a high-end brand versus your Pick and Pay, or in a UK context, it would be your Marks and Spencer versus Tesco. So can you just, I want to pick your brain on that and how you explained it to me today, audience to actually get it, because so many times we are interested in business and we don't know. First of all, we don't understand the industry we're in. Second of all, we can't we don't know what our competitive advantage is, and hence to diversify that portfolio that's given to us. So just explain to us the context of Woolworths and Checkers, or
Okay, so if you look at like your retail, as you say, you compare maybe a Pick and Pay or Checkers to a Woolworths. The one thing that people always tell you is that Woolworths is expensive, but it's amazing that in spite of being expensive, Woolworths does well. And the difference with that is that they major on service, and I know for a fact that they do intense training on service to their staff, and that is across the board. So they are doing training all the time in terms of service.
Right.
So Woolworths is not the kind of people that are going to compete on price. And a lot of the time we have this, I don't know if it's a fool's kind of thing that we have, that we're going to compete on price. If you don't have economies of scale, so if you don't have a big market, you can't compete on price, right? If you don't control your manufacturing and production, if you're providing products, you can't compete on price. If you don't control distribution, you can compete on price. And we always say that people are saying, I want to farm, I want to sell chickens. Sometimes what you need to start with is maybe spend 20,000 eggs and see how fast you can actually sell that in order to understand the kind of business that you're going into. Because if you don't have that distribution, if you don't have places where you can actually push your product, then you actually sort of get egg on your face.
Wow, that is profound. That is so profound. And I think I want to pick up the next question that we prepared for you. And one of the things you began to talk about how you multiply business, and we began to talk about infrastructure. Tell us from your experience now, when we're dealing with infrastructure and systems and all of those protocols, what is the benefit of having infrastructure? What is the benefit of having a system?
Okay. I think a lot of the time when you start to read more about business and get involved in business, we speak a lot about scaling the business, right? So that's basically, you've got one store, you open two, you make the stores bigger, you go as wide as you can, you go across the globe, and that's everything. What's been able to scale those businesses. And where a lot of entrepreneurs frustrate themselves is that we hear so much about scale that everybody's trying to just, even businesses that can't be scaled. So we need the Woolworths. We also need those mom and pop stores. We need those stores, within our communities. And those stores are important because obviously those stores, they feed families. But if you are wanting to scale, you have to make serious investments into your infrastructure.
Right.
Because at the end of the day, when you're going to plug and play, you can't be like sort of starting again every time you open a new spot.
Right.
So the advantage of systems is that it's going to make it easier for you to expand.
Wow.
Now, a lot of the time what happens is somebody's got one business and they're doing well, and we get excited about that, we get attracted to them, and they speak about then opening a second business.
Right.
And us to maybe to make investments into these businesses, but actually there's no system, there's nothing that can actually be repeated in order to bring that success. And actually in business, they say the only thing worse than a business that is not doing well is not knowing why you are doing well.
Wait, say that again. Say that again.
The only thing in business worse than not doing well is not knowing why you are doing well. Because if you knew what you're doing well, then you can able to put systems and infrastructure, you can able to get organic growth to that, and then you can multiply. You know, so I've seen it. Somebody's got a little store, they want to go bigger, they're looking for investments. And as I said, you can't invest into something that you don't understand. So they obviously need to present you with some kind of a plan that shows how this business is actually going to grow. How are we going to get customers? What is going to be our revenue stream? Actually, how are we going to get this money? How are we going to grow? You know? And also with that, when you're asking me to invest, what am I actually investing in? You get what I'm saying? So if you're investing, we need to say we need more money in this business because we need more materials, we need more stores, we need more equipment, we need to put more stuff on the ground or something like that. But we can't just say, you know, come invest just because we want to grow. Anybody, you must be careful about anybody who wants you to invest in a business if there's no real sort of tangible reason for that growth. Sometimes those guys are already starting to run into cash flow problems.
Wow.
And they're just looking for somebody else to pour money into a thing that probably is already going down, or even worse than that, is poorly managed.
Wow. You talk about investments, and I want to pick your brain in investments, and you kind of touched on a few of the points I had in my mind. But I want to ask you, as somebody who has been involved in working for businesses, somebody who's bought businesses previously, somebody who's also involved in partnerships, what from your experience, what are the issues that we need to be alert of and be aware of?
That's an interesting one. I went to a meeting once. It was a couple from my church. They were really involved in a business. And in the parking lot, they told me all about the business. It was a good business. It was a Monday, but a Friday, we had a business name. We secured a contract, you know, in terms of, because it was for student accommodation.
Right.
So we got contract. We needed to find a house. Within 2 weeks, we had bought the property. We had renovated the property, and it was all systems go. And it looks like once the students came in there, between ourselves, it was just one, one point of conflict after another. And that to me is what an incomplete contract. Number one, we're so excited about the fact that there's money to be made that we don't start to look firstly, are we a good match to be in business?
Wow, a good match.
You might just be hungry, you know, you need to eat.
Wait. We've been talking about hunger pains, you know, and people that are hungry, and of course this is a business. I want to explain to us what you mean by hungry. Okay. And you can go back to the question. Yeah.
I think what is interesting and what I've seen, obviously from community and people who've been involved in business, is very few people that sit down and think about the business, as I said, in terms of the pricing structure, who's going to be, you know, our clients, how we're going to go to markets, how we're going to actually get our name out there, how we actually can compete, what's our pricing structure going to be. Most people that start a business start because they're hungry. It's either you've been retrenched, or you're frustrated at your job, or maybe you had a hobby, you've been maybe cutting grass on the weekends, you like gardening, and then you just decide, you know what, this is what I'm going to do. And we don't take time to actually go through that and think, what is it that we actually going to do? And out of that hunger, we just start doing anything and taking any job that's available. Wow. And we'll take it at any price. Wow. And at any cost.
Wow. Take it at any cost and at any...
And then what basically happens, what we find, because I've had that experience, so somebody starts when they're hungry, the guy comes and do a job for you for 50 Rand maybe, and it's like, man, I can support this guy. And suddenly after 6 months, he realizes that not having a job and running a business full time, it takes a lot more. But the next time he comes to you, now the service is 150 Rand. And I'm like, this is like, it's like too expensive now,
right,
and then we go somewhere else. Right. And that's where the frustrations sort of actually come in. So I think we actually need more guys and ladies thinking more about what it is that they want to do and how they want to do it, actually rushing into it.
Wow. So guys, Dr. Owen is saying, don't rush into anything. And I'm guilty of that. I was saying to you, laughing at me today. A few years ago, I bought something and I said to me, why are you rushing? And it turned out to be something that was horrendous, and I've subsequently learned from that. When something happened today and, I needed to check with Dr. Owen regarding something, and the temptation was there to reply to this email immediately. And I thought, you know what, this is not my world. This is not my scope. I need input from somebody who's an expert within this field that knows the nitty-gritty, and to take their wisdom on board, to get understanding, and then shift and move forward. And I think, guys, whatever you do, like Dr. Owen is saying to us, don't rush, get understanding. The Bible says, triple thing, but in all you're getting, get understanding. And I think understand utmost importance to everything we do. And of course, we're speaking about investment and knowing when to invest, where to invest, and some of the pitfalls we make along the journey. And I think for me, a highlight of what Dr. Owen said, is a match. Many times we overlook the team dynamics, and sometimes we have visionaries. We have 5 visionaries, all having their own ideas about how this business is going to function, which is not a match. Just, from your experience, just focus.
Okay, so back to the example I was talking about, right? So when I looked at it, it's just student accommodation. These guys just need something that is functional.
Right.
You get what I'm saying? They just need a bed, a mattress, a stove, if they're going to use it, or whatever the case is, and that's it. And then, of course, the desk to study. But somehow, the guys had a different idea in wanting to sort of make it a more kind of upmarket kind of experience. And if you look, like a very clear example we have is in the airline industry. You get low-cost airlines, and then you get, the premium airlines. And one needs to know, are you low-cost or are you premium?
Right.
And one side, that's what it is, then I think you should sort of focus your business on doing that,
right,
rather than jumping between,
right,
and landing yourself in trouble. Because I think you're only going to learn as you sort of grow and focus on things rather than being all over the place. I think I just want to add on to what Paul is saying in terms of speaking to people who either, might have more experience than you, or who actually know about business. There was a young man that I was mentoring, speaking about business, and we got chatting, and I was saying to him, actually, any kind of subscription-based business is actually a very good business to go into, right? Because once your numbers continue to grow, after a certain number, it's just profit all the way, right? So if you look at your gyms, if you look at life insurances, those kind of companies, mobile phones, it's just anything where people have to continue paying. It's just the way to go. So he had this great idea. He loved gymming. He wants to open a gym. So he found a building. So he took me, and as we were driving there, I just thought a gym is a luxury. It's what people pay for after they feed themselves.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And he was taking me into a community, and I could see this thing is not going to work. Everybody's going to sign up, and after 3 months, nobody's going to pay. So I gently encouraged him to, continue working on his idea to see what I'm saying. But then I showed him that I was still interested in him getting the right idea, and I started to look for equipment for him. And I started to send him and say, these guys are having a special, here's a gym closing down, maybe you can check this out, to show him that when I'm saying to you, that maybe this is not the place that you should be. It's not because I'm jealous of you, I don't want you to succeed. The reason why I'm saying that is because I want you to succeed.
It's so good. And I think that is so powerful. I think one of the value systems of, that Annalyn and myself and the guys in London began to establish was that, number one, be teachable. Number two, rather have focused energy. Don't be all over the show and you don't really build anything. And I think what Dr. Owen is saying is so crucial. It's so crucial in life, and I've seen it, in building ministry. When you start off, you're trying to do this and you're trying to do that, and you're finding your fit and you're finding your flow and you're finding your function and you're trying to establish what you do. But something more from a spiritual premise, I always say to guys, this is something I've learned later on in ministry, is that, look for the fruit in what you are doing. And wherever there's fruit in what you are doing, focus there, because that's where God is actually breathing. And I think it's the same principle when it comes to business. You can't do everything. Like Dr. Owen is saying, and we go right back to the beginning. He said, you cannot go into business with something you don't understand. Once you understand the business, then understand your competitive advantage. Something we've learned, we call it the purple cow. The purple cow method is everyone has cows, and when people are driving past, what differentiates your cow from other cows? Of course, when your purple cow is amidst everybody, it's obvious, it's visible. And I think this is what we are essentially saying. And my next question, Dr. Owen, is we began to talk about pivoting, and how crucial and critically important pivoting is, from your experience in business over 21 years of doing this thing. I mean, you've probably seen the good, the bad, the ugly. From your experience in pivoting, how do we make room to pivot, whether it be in business, whether it be in ministry, or in whatever capacity is available to us?
Okay, so just to backtrack a bit, pivoting is basically a change in direction in your business. So it could be a change in your entire business, or it could be a change in a part of your business. So it's not necessarily the whole business that changes. So maybe you were looking at sort of a low income kind of sector, and everybody starts complaining that your prices are too high, and you believe in your product, then maybe it's time to rather go to a higher segment where people are actually able to afford that, right? And I say pivoting is actually from basketball. It's when you land on one foot and then you change that direction on the other foot to be able to think. So you haven't left the game, you're just basically changing and move in terms of what you're doing. I think also when we look at pivoting, a lot of time that comes through a crisis like we're having now with COVID. So people are having to rethink what they're doing, rethinking how maybe before they were just bricks and mortar, having to move online. Restaurants, people came to them. Now they're actually having to deliver and get into apps, and maybe they were web-based before. Like those kind of things, just to move. So they haven't given up the business. They're just sort of moving on to something else. And some of the big companies that we know today have had to pivot. YouTube started as an online dating site, a video site.
Did you hear that, guys?
For dating.
A dating site.
That's how YouTube started. And today we know YouTube, anybody that's got any content to put, you can put it on there, you put your teachings, you can be a producer, you can do everything on there. But that's how it started. Western Union, which we know helps to transfer money all across the world. So what they found is guys were leaving where they lived, as migrant workers. And back in the day, the first thing they did was sending telegrams.
Look at that.
Then telephones came in, internet came in, and they had to change. They had to change what they were offering. But they already had the systems. They already had sort of that early mover advantage in terms of that they were already all over. And they realized that people might not be phoning home or sending letters home, but they still need to send money home.
Wow.
And that's how they were able to get into that. So I think that a lot of the time it is asking ourselves, what kind of need are we meeting for our clients? And that's going to obviously help us to go through with that.
Wow. Well, I think, I think one of the things that the Lord spoke to myself about 2020, and we began to declare open heaven, all right? And with that, we began to talk about not open heavens as we are familiar with, but open heavens, whenever the heavens open, names changed. We saw Jacob becoming Israel. We saw Simon Bar-Jonah becoming Peter. And we saw Saul becoming Paul. And we began to talk about 2020 is the year of open heavens, but in the context of God redefining the church. And I think in essence what Dr. Owen is saying is that when you have to diversify or when you have to pivot, there is a redefining of what you're doing because crisis presents an opportunity. And I think for me, what I began to understand as I began to interface with different gifts across the world is that God is actually redefining even the church. And I think in a business context, a business term, if we can describe that, it is a pivoting moment for the church because now, like Dr. Owen is saying, there was the bricks and mortar where we had to go to the sanctuary. COVID demanded that we make adjustments. COVID demanded that now, if you had a camera, if you had lights, if you had some sort of things to get online. Following on from that, we began to see different webinars come out of that. We began to see different consultations coming out of that. And I think so many times when God is demanding change or when change is coming to an individual, I think it's important and it's imperative that we make the adjustment, that we move with the shift and we move with the direction of where we meant to be moving into. And Dr. Owen, I want to ask you, in terms of your experience, what are some of the key things along your 21 years of experience of doing this? What are some of the valuable lessons that you learned? Maybe three. Just talk us to three valuable lessons that you learned.
I think it's important to be aware of changes that are happening in your industry if you're really in business and how that's you. So in a South African sense, the first business I opened was in the city center. It was very much dependent on medical aids, right? And I think I was 5 years in and the whole medical aid system shifted.
Wow.
Right, so we went from people having particular dental benefits going into saving, and suddenly it came to March, April, people had no more saving. I'm going to die. And then I took an opportunity with the corporates where they had better systems in place to help navigate that. And I was able to sell off the first practice. Then I got into that, and then my in what I was doing actually changed. You get what I'm saying?
Wow.
And then I had to reposition myself again to go and serve a market that is more in line with my interest.
That's so good.
You get what I'm saying? And sometimes what happens is because we spend so much sweat, blood, and tears on an idea, we actually don't know when enough is enough. You get what I'm saying? So you just keep chasing an idea that's not going anywhere. You keep pouring money into an idea that is not going anywhere. But at some point, we need to say, now's a good time, either to get out or to repossess being the one thing for me. I think the other thing that I've also learned is I had a very keen interest in property. And if I could help it, I would have bought a property every week or every day.
Yeah.
Right? But as we see with cycles in economy, cycles in the way the world works, when there's a financial, the first that hits is property. So maybe before the crisis, it was, you can sell it well, it was peak. At the crisis, it drops, and then you get stuck in that. And the other thing I found also with almost putting all the eggs in one basket is you get stuck with stuff that is not easy to dispose.
Right.
So what I've learned from that is one definitely needs more portfolio in terms of where you. But I think that obviously also learned from what I learned growing up. Property is a good investment. Property is a good place to go. So you come in with that,
right.
And you want to get going quickly. And yes, with some properties, I've made some good money either through letting or when I sell. And for others, it hasn't worked. you get what I'm saying? Like, I've got a flat at the moment. It's in a high-rise building. It was a very good idea. And I bought it. But the one thing I didn't think about is the safety aspect, and someone has to pay that. So the levies are very high there in comparison to other properties that we have, because we have to pay for the safety. You know what I mean? So it's like those kind of things that I've learned. So I think what I would also say is don't be afraid, because sometimes we talk like this, and people want to make a move, and they get more fearful rather than being encouraged to do something. You get what I'm saying? And I think we have to take a chance, and we have to take a risk. But I'm saying, let us take a calculated risk.
Right.
You get what I'm saying? Rather than just just anything.
Yeah, and I think just to add on to the calculated risk, the scripture is clear. The scripture says, who intending to build a tower does not count the cost, and I think so many times, I've learned so much since I've been around Dr. Owen, and there's something that he challenged me with. He made a joke, and he said to me, he said, Phil, we must be measured in every approach that we take in business. There must be a measured approach. And, we spoke, I think, for over 2 hours. And he said to me, there must be a measured approach. If you know your lane, stay in your lane, firstly. But if you want to migrate and move forward, this is my interpretation of what he said. You've got to get people who are a little bit ahead of you, that have achieved what you are trying to achieve, that can also give you context, that can say to you, Phil, that's a great idea, but I think you need to, research that idea a bit more, or go back to the drawing board. It's not good enough. Otherwise we will have expensive faith. It's something that it will deplete our resources. But Owen, Dr. Owen, can I ask you a question? Me as a minister of the gospel, with COVID taking us by surprise, with COVID demanding for us to be adaptable in this time, and I'm saying, okay, if this comes again in 5 years, I have to be positioned differently. Your wisdom, your advice for a pastor like me that's wanting to invest, what would your wisdom and advice be to us?
No, I think it's a very nice question, because I think a lot of the time when we look at like where we're at and we feel like we almost come to a plateau, or we get into a place where we're stuck, a lot of the time we always want to look out and try and grab something on the outside rather than looking at what we have. And I think sometimes it's about stopping and reevaluating what we have and seeing what are the opportunities in what we have. Most churches have buildings, churches have vehicles, churches have people. Churches have databases. Churches have a lot of things at their disposal that we are so, what can I say, tunnel visioned about the way we use them. We know when we built the sanctuary, it was for church on a Sunday.
Right.
And that's it. You get what I'm saying?
Uh-huh.
Or we collect this information sometimes just because someone said it's a good idea to collect information.
Uh-huh.
But we don't actually have a purpose for collecting that information. So I would say maybe we need to stop and see what we got and how we can actually use that. It was quite interesting, COVID. A guy came to repair stuff. We got chatting, and he does like repairing of washing machines and those kind of services. And he says, okay, things are getting a bit tight, but I've got quite a bit of work and I've got some money to invest. Where do you think I can invest this money? So I'm like, okay, you've got stuff, you've got work that you can't get to, so your lead times are too long. Maybe a good thing to do is to get another vehicle, employ more guys, right? And then maybe put your guys on an incentive for every job that they do rather than just paying them for the day. So that's way you can put more teams on the road, you can faster, you guys will do the work faster, and then you can just get that revenue from within. So you don't have to go and see, what is outside. You can actually just look inside and then grow that and let it become successful.
Wow, I love that. Look inside, and most times somebody who's fortunate, and I'll say this, we know about the 7 mountains. What is it? Now, in technology, the playing field has been leveled, where we haven't Dr. Owen said, to create opportunities. And I love that. I've certainly been challenged. Conclude, and I don't know, maybe you want to take a few questions.
No, let's take some questions.
So guys, if you do, okay, what happens when people only want you?
What is that in terms of a business? Okay, let's say it's a business. Okay, so like me now as a practitioner, right? To get organic growth, I've got space in my surgery. I can employ another dentist to come in, right? If people are only wanting to see me and not see him, and there's more than enough people that want to see me, all I have to do is raise the price.
Wow.
If I increase the price, they're very sure to want to go and see the guy that is charging less, but they're still getting the same service within the same environment.
Wow,
and that's a quick way to actually redistribute people very nicely without pushing them into something.
Wow.
And I think that's another thing that we can always look at in business. Sometimes we get to a place where we are running at maximum. There's not even any place for any kind of a hiccup. And there's two ways that you increase revenue. You either get more people to get the service, or you increase the price to increase profitability. And sometimes that's what we have to do. So when the demand is very high, to do is increase the price.
Wow, my God. Listen, guys, please, we're going to take some questions now. The doc is here. Maybe you're wanting to invest in a business. Maybe you're wanting to move in that direction. Please do direct your questions. We are waiting for them. Dr. Owen.
Okay, I see that question. When I only want you, it's about a beauty salon.
Okay.
And then if it's like that, you can actually just then do specialized services.
Wow.
So as a person that's in high demand, it's actually to your benefit, and you say, no, I only do braiding or I only do coloring, or I mean, I'm not obviously.
Yeah.
I'm not very familiar with how the business works.
Yeah.
But it's like those kind of, so there's always things that you can do inside of that, not to lose customers,
Right.
but still be able to provide the service.
Wow. So guys, I hope you've been blessed tonight. I've definitely enjoyed this. Your question, we want to hear from you, and okay, how do we keep to kingdom financial principles once the business starts? We have to tithe from all income, even if we're running at a loss. Wow, that's a good question. I'll answer, but
Your answer? No.
Go ahead.
That is a very good question. Maybe I'm going to be controversial, but that's fine. I'm with Pastor Full, and Pastor Full is always controversial. The Bible speaks about giving a tithe from income, from profitability, from produce, right? If you're in business and there's no profitability, there's no income, there's no produce. Think about it. If that was a farmer selling pumpkin, and there's just no pumpkins coming forth, what are you going to tithe on? You get what I'm saying? And with that, it takes me maybe to the next thing. If we are having to tithe from produce, should we actually be tithing on social grounds?
I think you need to explain that to people. I think let's spend time on this one. I think you have to explain that and go deeper.
No, I think a lot of the time there's almost this pressure, and sometimes I think it's misguided in the church in terms of giving unto God. Okay, the Bible says each one must give a free will offering, so that's it. We come, we give an offering, we give unto God. Because God is good to us, it takes care of us. But when you go and you look at tithing is more about produce. Tithing is about productivity. Tithing is about profitability. I think sometimes there's undue pressure that we are putting on people. They can just about make ends meet with a grant. That I'm not talking about when we are being reckless with what God has given us. Right? So I'm not saying now this is your license not to tithe because you put yourself in debt and you've got nowhere to turn. You get what I'm saying? But you are producing an income. There's obviously other ways if you can look at them at reducing your debt load. You know what I mean? So we can obviously still honor God. What I'm talking about is a yoke that is put onto people on social grants, on government, pensions, and those kind of things to be tithing rather than giving it's not profit, rather than giving a free will offering unto God.
I mean, you can explain it. I don't need to elaborate on that, but I love what he's saying. And many times we feel guilty on that. Just out of interest, I'm going to say this. Many times, what's your experience like being raising finance in South Africa? Any tips for those who may want to raise funds for their projects?
Raising funds can be a challenge, but I think what we find from people who have been able to raise funds is a sound business plan. That is your number one, is a sound business plan. I mean, I've sat with guys that are talking about they're going to do this thing and it's going to wet paper, and then people are going to be able to wipe themselves when they miss. It's like, that's why we have wet wipes. You get what I'm saying? So it's like that. So you need to be servicing or providing for an actual need, right? And your plan needs to be sound. But I think more than that, the plan actually needs to be sound in order to get finance. Because people are not going to invest things that don't make sense or things that are not thought through properly. You know what I'm saying? And that's quite interesting with those getting finance. I used to watch Dragon's Den and all the venture capitalists and that type of thing. And sometimes people have great ideas and they want the money, want people to invest into their ideas. Right. And the guys asked him, how many businesses have you run before? You know, and how many failings have you had? Because we're not going to have you learning on our money.
Say that again. Oh,
You get what I'm saying? A lot of time people are looking for investments when they haven't even started to walk. And that's always going to be the question. Like, what have you done? How many failings have you had? Have you put money on anything? And what have you actually learned from that?
Wow. Hey guys, listen. This is so good. Have a sound business plan. You know, I wanna conclude with this. You know, this is something this is an initiative that we're gonna do again, and we're going to be engaging more in this realm. You know, we're gonna be developing curriculum, and we want to take people with us on the journey, because I realize, you know, all of us, and I speak from my perspective, you know, we were caught by surprise, COVID. And when you look at, I think Owen was telling me today, when you look at the book of Genesis, it talks about 4 streams, you know, and when one stream is affected, sorry, do we have an additional 3 streams that can actually sustain our, you know, our portfolio, for example? And this is something that we want to empower our communities. So stay with us, work with us, follow us on this journey, because this journey is going to bring about so much change. You know, I think we got some more questions, Peter.
Yeah, no, let's take that one.
What advice do you have for full-time employee who wants to start a business? Very good question. I've noticed a gap in the market for a specific product, but there is such a thing as starting too small. That's a very good question.
That's a nice question. I love that. I mean, all the questions are good, but that one, it really resonates. It really speaks to me, right? Number one, you said earlier, the Bible says that you never start building without counting the cost, right? So basically what happens when you start a business, you have what we call a sunk cost. So if it's a technological space, it's money you can spend on research, development, technology. If you are building a hospital, it's all those building costs, and those are the sunk costs, right? The next thing then is what we call opportunity cost.
Oh, opportunity cost.
Opportunity cost.
Wait. I want you to write down the sunk cost.
Sunk cost, opportunity cost.
Opportunity cost. Come on, write that, and I don't want you to forget that. I want everybody on here. This is the call to action. I want you to write that in the comment section. Sunk cost and opportunity cost. So write it there.
Right, so in your opportunity cost, it's basically the revenue that you would lose when you choose an alternative. So it's very simple. If I wanted to sell apples and bananas, for every moment that I spend selling apples, it's an opportunity lost to sell bananas. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I need to constantly see which is the one that's going to give me a greater return. On that question, a full-time employee wanting to start a business, I think the first opportunity cost that you would lose is your salary. And the first opportunity cost you lose as a full-time employee when you start a business is your salary. A lot of times, I know I also like to say that the salary is the bribe that they give you to your dreams, to bury your dreams. That's the bribe that they give you, salary, right? So what we need to do then is do the sums and do the maths and see, do I actually need to leave my job in order to run this, or can this actually be a side hustle? You know, that it's like those type of things that we need to look at. Otherwise, the cost becomes too high to pursue an idea that sometimes we haven't even thought through or we haven't been through. The second one, I like that part there. It says, I've noticed a gap in the market. And that is something you need to test, because I had this great idea of a gap in the market of where I am. I had the plan down and I started to do. So I didn't go to my friends because they would have told me it's a good idea. I didn't go to colleagues that know me. They would have told me it's a good idea. I didn't sell it to my parents because they would have told me it's a good idea. So I went to people that don't know me, who I would want to use the product. And 9 out of 10 told me straight, they're not interested.
Wow.
So sometimes
wow.
there's a gap in the market, but is there a market in the gap? There might be a gap in the market, but there's no market gap.
Hey.
And those are the things that we need to, there's no rush with this. You need to take your time. You need to do your research. You need to do your cold calling. You need to do, your field work before you throw all of your resources into an idea.
Wow. That. I think we had another question. I think from Natasha Halford. But anyway, let's see. Okay, is there a gap in the market? Okay, people are just quoting. No, this has been so valuable tonight, and
sorry guys, it is sunk cost. Like when you sing something, your money is gone. That's it, sunk cost. Your money is sunk. It's not coming back. There's nothing you can do to get it back.
Yeah. So guys, we want you guys on the journey with us, and we would appreciate that. And we're gonna build capacity, and we're gonna make sure that we. Okay, we just got the other question. What was that, Dr. Owen?
I think it was something about, maybe the person can just re-put that question, please. We can't see it in terms of a mentor, something with having a mentor. Okay, it says, maybe can you just repeat the question?
Yeah. And Natasha, please repeat your question. We want to answer it, and then we'll conclude tonight's session, and we'll keep you engaged. That's cool. I think while Natasha is writing a question, I want to encourage you guys, this is an opportunity for you to, do you find people willing to mentor?
Do you find people willing to mentor? So I'm looking for them, or people looking to be mentored, or how do they find a mentor?
That's a good question. I find okay. I think understand. I think I understand the text of the question. Again, for me, as a mentee, I'm not in this scenario regarding business. I'm not the mentor, the mentee. I have to make a decision to be mentored. I think it starts there. You have to be good to have a mentor and a people willing to.
Yes. I think if you're gonna know in this, it's important to have a mentor. And I don't think only in a business sense. I think in everything that we do in life, it's important that we have a mentor. I started cycling a while ago, and in the last 2 years, I started cycling with somebody who's better than me, who's faster than me. He's held my hand, and I must say, in the last 2 years, I've had much better development, and speed, and I've become more proficient and efficient at it because of a mentor. However, he's not coming to my house to pick me up. I have to be phoning him and ask him, are we going tomorrow? Where are we going? How do I need to do? I say to him, look, I'm noticing that I'm chasing you every week, but I can't catch you. What is it that I need to do? Then he said, okay, maybe go to the gym and do these exercises, do this at home. And that's it. And if you are wanting a mentor, I think firstly we need to identify the mentor, and then we need to chase after that person to be able to mentor us. I've had guys before, they say, Owen, can you mentor me in business? I say, no problem, here's a nice book for you to read. And I never hear again from that person. And I'm like, you know what? This guy doesn't take the time to read a book. He's not worth my time. Because if he can't invest in his own time, in terms of reading a book on business, why should I give him my time and waste my time when he's not prepared to do the work?
Chase after your mentor.
That's it. You've got to chase after it.
Yeah. And like I said, also you have to be following. Okay. So my thing is this, you like Owen, Dr. Owen said, you gotta be willing to identify your mentor. When you identify that you want Dr. Owen to mentor you, you must be willing to change. Of course, you know that. And of course, we've got another question. How can you start a rental property portfolio without any initial capital? Wow. I'm going to leave that for you.
That's a good question, because I was actually just thinking about that today.
Wow.
That a lot of the time when we think about rent, okay, that's a rental property agency or portfolio. Okay, there's actually two ways to do that. Number one, you could be an agency, so you rent out other people's properties, or alternatively, you buy your own properties.
Wow.
And you rent those out.
Wow.
So I think it might be a good idea to start with an agency and you collect properties and rent those out for people.
Wow, my God.
You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But also in terms of the property portfolio, there's a very nice book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. He explains that to us. That a lot of the time, we are all wanting to go into these high income areas when actually profitability in terms of rental is quite low. So we should actually sort of redirect our market and maybe go where there's a greater need for that type of thing. But back to the question, I think maybe we can start with an agency first, and then later on go to actually the bricks and mortar of it. Or you might just find that it's actually just better just to be the agency without the property portfolio.
My God. And last question, I have a question for Dr. Owen. Anyone that desires to move into business now, what book would you recommend? Because of course now, we are dealing with knowledge. We are identifying knowledge gaps in our business perspectives. What book would you recommend as an introduction for people who desire to move in Israel?
I think Rich Dad, Poor Dad is obviously a very good book. There's another book, The Art of Negotiation. That's a nice book to
The
to
Art
read
of
as well.
Negotiation. Wow.
Richard Branson's also got some very nice books. One is called Losing My Virginity. The other one is Screw Business as Usual. And in that one, he speaks about how it begins heavyweight corporates to be able to get into the places that he's been into. So as usual business, it's nice to start with stories of entrepreneurs, just to be able to give you that feeling. And then I think after that, you can obviously move into some of the others.
Yeah, so look, guys, I think we've exhausted quite a bit of information tonight and impartation tonight. And the next session, we're gonna get back to you with a date when the next session. But we want you to stay tuned. We want you to plug in. We want you to follow us on this journey, because we are going somewhere with this. And when we look back after a year from now, we want to say, this is where we started, and look at how many entrepreneurs have actually begun to step out and to pursue their desire for this. That's one of the aspirations we have. And of course, listen, guys, I'm a senior leader, and for any senior leader on this broadcast today, get in touch with Dr. Owen. Let him come and consult with what you have, because I guarantee you it will be life-changing. I spent a couple of days with him, and whenever he spoke business, I recognized, now I need to be taking notes, now I need to. And he began to consult with some of the areas today, literally with me. He pulled me. I was out, came back, he pulled me to come sit. Now I know what he's doing. I know he's the mentor, he determines the pace. Don't get upset when you don't hear anything from your mentor. Pursue them. And when they start teaching you, keep quiet, take notes, and then let it digest, and then ask questions after that conversation. He's giving you tips on how mentorship works. So God bless you guys. Owen, any last words from you?
I say, don't give up on your dreams. Follow them. Maybe you've tried a few times and it hasn't worked yet. Maybe you just need to look at maybe refining the idea that you have. Maybe it wasn't the time for the idea that you had. I think it's Winston Churchill that says never waste a crisis. In this, there's opportunities. And I think let us open and let us continue pushing forward with whatever ideas we have, whatever plans we have. As I said, keep on looking, keep on waiting for opportunities, and it's going to happen.
Wow, this has been so powerful, so powerful. We're gonna be doing a few things, and we're gonna talk about, and we'll be in touch. Don't forget to follow my church, London. Go hit the like button, hit the follow button. There's so much that God is literally spotlighting and highlighting within the life of my church. So even for those who don't have a local church currently, you are looking for a local church, come and be a part of what we are doing. Come and be a part of this movement. Because God is really breathing upon what we're doing. Come and be a part of the family. No, so Dr. Owen, thank you so much for your impartation tonight. We appreciate it, and we look forward to taking over the world as Dr. Alicia said. We're going to take over the world. Are you with us? I think when it comes to the business couch, I literally found a phrase that I'm quick. We're going to take over the world. So yeah, God bless you. Have a great week, and we will be in touch. We love you. Good night.
Cheers.